Overnight storms and today's showers didn't seem to bother the Belmont layout. It was the lack of breeze that signalled the attack on a course that seemed to give as good as it got today. Queenslander Andrew Dott's chip in for birdie on the par 4-11 took the Indooroopilly golfer to 5 under before giving 2 back. Tasmanian Robin Hodgetts followed a similar script. 5 under after 9, his journey back to the clubhouse included 3 bogeys, but a late charge saw him end at 4 under. Welshman Gareth Wright moved to 4 under with this birdie putt on 11, before giving 2 strokes back on the very next hole. He ended with a 67 and 1 shot off the lead. That's where Irishman Matt McGeady sits as well after his 5 under par round. One pairing caused split allegiances in the gallery. Hometown boy and US amateur champion Nick Flanagan partnered American senior amateur champ Kemp Richardson, and it was hard to know who was giving the lesson today. Back home only yesterday, Charlestown's James Nitties was getting reacquainted with local surrounds. The New Zealand amateur and under-23s champion is playing through back pain and managed to card a 4 under par round today to be well on the pace. Locals got the best view of 2003 champion Jared Lyle's opening round, and after shooting 4 birdies on the front 9, the Victorian has started his title defence on the right foot as well. Morning groups always seem to have the better going at Belmont, but State Junior champion Wonjun Lee creates his own breeze on a course feared for its winds. His power off the tee only matched today by his touch around the green as the Concord Club member tore up the leaderboard with a 5 under par round. It only brought out the best in playing partner and overnight leader John Fitzgerald. After a 66 yesterday, the Morisset golfer timed his attack on Belmont well again today. His approach on the final hole setting up an eagle chance. He settled for birdie and a 68 to see him hit the clubhouse as leader at 10 under.
I'm usually just around hoping to make the cut sort of thing, and I just can't believe it, to be honest.
Joint leader when he teed off, Newcastle's Matt Farley needed every bit of local knowledge to get out of trouble at the start of his second round. Few know Belmont better than Nick Flanagan, and the US amateur champion used every bit of it to set himself up for a birdie start to his round. Again, healthy galleries followed the local champ's every move, but international stars still commanded plenty of attention. Starting well in red figures, Welshman Gareth Wright picked up another stroke early, while Charlestown's James Nitties is another of the homegrown players who are in with a big chance at the halfway mark at this tournament.
They've come from countries far and wide, bringing with them their unique cultures. But today their common bond becoming an Australian citizen in the city of Newcastle. The festivities began bright and early with a citizenship ceremony on the foreshore, 95 people reading the Australian Citizenship Pledge, and presented with a certificate and an Australian native shrub, and the reasons for becoming an Australian were varied.
So I've been in Australia now 15 years, so I think it's about time. My 2 children are Australian citizens.
Others keen to embrace Australia for its peace, freedom and democracy, some fleeing their native countries because of war and unrest.
We came after the crisis, after the 2000 we had the coup in Fiji, and then since then we've been here.
The citizenship ceremony celebrated the multicultural face of Newcastle, with people from 25 countries becoming Australian citizens. Meanwhile, thousands flocked to the harbour, escaping oppressive humidity, to watch and participate in numerous activities. Hunter Surf Life Savings fundraiser Ducks for Bucks had thousands of little yellow ducks floating down the harbour, helped along by the outgoing tide. And a Newcastle Australia Day wouldn't be complete without a visit to the city's most famous landmark, Fort Scratchley. A large crowd gathered to witness the firing of the guns to celebrate this special national day. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
While recent rain would have made any skipper think twice about batting first today, Narara, Wyoming opted to go straight in on the number 1 sports ground pitch. It was the same strip that yielded Victoria's incredible last day run chase against New South Wales, and Glenn Smith found it had plenty more runs left in it. Consecutive boundaries off Matt Webber quickly had him into double figures. Andrew Mosley, though, only picked out Hamwick skipper Todd Campbell, and the Central Coast side was 1 for 25. Peter Cross didn't take long to get his eye in, and together with Smith started to build a good total for Narara. Smith top scoring with 77 as they set the home side 226 for victory. No matter what the total, Hamwicks always like scoring fast, and Andrew Mullard led the way. The big hitting left-hander laid into Narara, Wyoming's attack before his entertaining knock ended in the hands of Andrew Ryan. Former state second 11 bat Reece Soper didn't slow up as the required run rate hovered at around 5 and over. What a captain's knock from Todd Campbell, hitting 64 from 71 deliveries. With 4 runs to win, he departed. It was merely a formality though, as Hamwicks took their second title in 3 successive finals appearances.
Meet 1/4 of the 2004 Birraban Public School Kindy class. There are the twins Tyler and Cameron, and Sam and Sean, and then there are the triplets Tylen, Chloe and Josh. If you think that's confusing, spare a thought for their teacher, Miss Wotherspoon Brown, who tomorrow morning will come face to face with one of her biggest challenges yet. Today may have been a dress rehearsal, but it's probably just as well. This small army of students are still working out just which way is up. And while tomorrow's large step will be taken together, it seems saying goodbye could be toughest for the biggest of the bunch.
Just nervous. I suppose there'll be a few tears tomorrow. It's been a dream for a while, but I don't think I'll be looking forward to it now, so we'll just see what happens.
A bit nervous. Used to having them at home with their older brother, so very nervous.
While most kindy kids will be looking to forge new friendships, these school starters come with a custom-made crew, which is sure to be double or perhaps even triple the fun. The school bell may ring in a little over 14 hours, but the soon-to-be students are already planning just what challenges they'll undertake.
Play-Doh, toy phones, painting.
Colleen West, NBN News.
It's an unfamiliar but welcome outcome. Police reporting few traffic complaints and a decline in all traffic offences during the long weekend.
They have been very well behaved and they should be congratulated.
Double demerit penalties came to an end last night, with Operation Safe Return recording no fatalities on local roads. All road offences in the region are substantially lower than at the same time last year.
Drivers are heeding our warnings and knowing that we're out there, booking them if they do commit offences.
Drink driving infringements are down by almost a third, while the number of drivers failing to wear a seatbelt has dropped by almost 50%. Speeding offences are also lower, along with all other traffic offences. Despite these good results, police say drivers are being distracted text messaging on this while driving, and it's a problem they find difficult to detect.
Normally the phone is up to a person's ear if they do have or don't have a hands-free, and we can see that far easier than we can someone text messaging.
A Telstra survey has found 1 in 5 drivers admit they have sent a text message while driving a motor vehicle. Police say taking your eyes off the road for even a short time could prove deadly. Police encourage drivers to pull over and park their vehicle if they need to send a text message. Linda Kincaid, NBN News. The local community is at a loss today following the theft of a surf rescue bike.
Without this sort of equipment, we're unable to respond up the northern end of the beach at all, take any oxygen equipment or rescue equipment we need, transport patients back.
Only 2 weeks ago, the bike, similar to this one, was used in a major rescue operation to transport oxygen to a father and daughter who had been caught in a rip.
It makes you think, doesn't it, what sort of mentality is out there to target a rescue organisation that is struggling for funds.
It's believed the vandals broke into the club around 4 a.m, stole the bike and headed 2 kilometres up the coast. Lifesavers fear the bike, worth around $14,000, may now be underwater.
A few years ago, a similar incident happened and we recovered the vehicle dumped in the channel.
It's the second time in just over 2 months that this club has been targeted. Last time vandals broke into the second floor, shattered windows and let off fire extinguishers.
It is a secluded area down here and it does make it very hard to police.
Police are appealing for anyone with information on the theft. Linda Kincaid, NBN News.
It's been quite a while since a DC-3 aircraft landed at this airport in which the Waratahs made a classic entrance, all part of boosting their profile in regional New South Wales.
I suppose it takes you back in time a little bit, and we've been able to experience a little bit of history along the way. And we had a fella, Captain Jack Curtis, who gave us a bit of a spiel every time we went up in the air. It was great.
Although their feet have barely touched the ground, tomorrow night they're expecting to come back to earth with a thud against Waikato.
You really struggle in the first game of the fitness-wise, but we don't want to go out there and do too much. I think we just want to keep it simple and just probably try and put what we've been doing on the training paddock into the game.
In the NBL, Cairns overcame Melbourne for the first time in 5 years last night, while New Zealand tamed the Wildcats and the Kings posted their biggest points haul against the Pirates. Sydney fired on all cylinders early, but the deficit could have been much worse for the Pirates as Geordie Cullen again played a starring role, scoring a game-high 36 points. Pirates' new signing Alan McCowan also did his bit, bagging this bomb. Chris Harriman was among the walking wounded left to watch on as Sydney broke into triple figures, maintaining its lead on the ladder. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
They moved to Australia on 4-year working visas to take up the opportunity of living in the lucky country. But ever since these Hungarians started at 4Jacks, some of their Australian workmates have made life difficult with taunts, jibes and industrial action.
There were some harassment, like graffitis on the wall in the toilets, like Hungarians go back home, this sort of thing.
They were afraid to speak out today. They simply want to get on with the job.
We really don't want any problems. Just get along, work together.
They also say they're being discriminated against by the Manufacturing Workers Union, which won't let them join. The union is questioning the granting of their visas and says it's concerned the Hungarians come at the expense of the local workforce.
What our people see that they're getting employed for a week here and a week there, contract, casual. They haven't got the same commitment from the company.
4Jacks claims it had to import the Hungarians due to a shortage of tradespeople in Australia, but the union says that simply isn't the case.
If he offered for permanent work, I think he would be inundated for permanent work.
But according to 4Jacks, many of the local casuals have been offered full-time positions but reject them because casual employment offers a higher rate of pay. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It was on this day in 1954 that Colin Maslin first joined Merewether Fire Station as a volunteer, and at the age of 73, he still isn't looking back.
Every day is a challenge in the game. You don't know when that siren goes off and your pages go off, you don't know what you've got, so the challenge is there.
Today, family, friends and the New South Wales Fire Commissioner Greg Mullins paid tribute to Captain Cole and his incredible record of community service, which includes volunteering 3 days a week with Meals on Wheels.
I've got a problem going to see a doctor to see why I feel so well, because at my age I shouldn't feel as well as I do.
And that's exactly what's kept the great-grandfather going, even on those cold, wet and windy early mornings when most people are still tucked up in bed. Cole, who has taken the record for being the longest-serving fire captain in New South Wales, today received one of his best gifts ever, a brand-new pumper that will call his beloved station home. And there was little time to waste, the captain warming up the seat in preparation for his next venture. Colleen West, NBN News.
On the first day of the inquest into the fire, police revealed the blaze was the result of arson. Based on my examinations and observations, and those of my colleagues, it appears all accidental causes can be eliminated. Senior Constable Torres, who had been evacuating residents, told the court flames were 8 to 10 metres high. I should go down and warn Abernathy. I was terrified. A woman told the inquest she had overheard a conversation at Cessnock Tennis Club, where it was claimed a youth had started the fire. He had lit some mosquito coils and left it in the grass to burn. Another resident, who claimed he had once shared a prison cell with the alleged arsonist, described him as a 17-year-old, thin with brown curly hair. He was shorter than me, probably 5'10". The court heard from witnesses a youth who was seen near where the fire began was stopped by police, to whom he gave a false name and address. He was challenged by a second officer that same day but failed to stop, riding off on a white and orange trail bike. The inquest continues tomorrow and is expected to run for a week. Linda Kincaid, NBN News.
Students from the St John Vianney School were evacuated to the nearby Morisset fire station when school staff smelt the gas about 11 o'clock this morning. Some of the 150 children were taken home by their parents, while gas company workers attempted to isolate the source of the leak.
Well, I was worried about it igniting somehow and kaboom, yeah.
With the aid of gas detectors and with firefighters standing by, the leak was found in a medium-pressure domestic supply line. Neighbours said they notified the gas company of the strong smell yesterday and that the leak had worsened today, forcing the school to be evacuated as a precaution.
My primary concern was the children, to make sure that they were safe.
The leak was repaired this afternoon, with children allowed to return to class. Paul Lobb, NBN News. The Sydney Swans were practising their rugby league moves at Newcastle's #1 sports ground today as part of their pre-season trip away. Big Bad Barry Hall and last year's Brownlow medalist Adam Goods were working hard on the field, but in the stand, closely watching their every move, was 91-year-old Ralph Swan from Charlestown, who has high hopes for the boys in this year's Wizard Cup.
I think they might be the premiers this year.
If Swans coach Paul Roos needs some tips for his side's first clash of the season next Saturday against Essendon, he need only go as far as Ralph Swan.
Well, I've been looking at them. I've been a bit perturbed about their big men, but I think they seem to have a couple of pretty big fellas, but that was the only place they lacked last year, their ruckmen.
But love the Swans as he does, he says there was a better team.
And I saw the best football team that ever ran on the ground was South Melbourne when they won the premiership in 1934.
Younger fans are now following in Ralph's footsteps, grateful for a chance to see the boys in the flesh.
Oh, I think it's wonderful. I couldn't resist coming in to see them.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Joe Wheelhouse won't be back. Damien Brown is facing a knee reconstruction and Greg Owens is expected to have his knee in a brace for at least 2 months. Bad news is becoming the norm for Newcastle United, and this week the side's only remaining striker, Asala Massey, has missed training because of an old hamstring injury. It's uncertain if he'll play against Sydney Olympic on Sunday, and that could mean Mitchell Wallace will be promoted from the youth side to step into his shoes. Wallace has played just a handful of games with the top grade.
The one thing that the young boys will always give you is a real enthusiasm level. So And sometimes that can be infectious as well. It can rub off onto the older ones. As you say, there's...
And if that's the winning formula, they'll need plenty of it, with just 4 games remaining in the competition. Newcastle is one of 6 sides fighting for a possible 2 places in the top 6.
Is it going to be really difficult for us to get there? Yeah. Is it impossible? No.
Colleen West, NBN News.
Another day and another load of backpackers roll into Newcastle. These women are from Denmark and are part of a growing number of travellers who stop over in the city as part of their journey along the east coast.
Newcastle is a stop on the way to Sydney, and I've been here before a week ago one night.
And those who choose to stay in Newcastle are pleasantly surprised.
The beach is a little bit different than all the other ones, and it's a bit of a bigger place than like Byron and Coffs Harbour and places we stopped in between.
The city's 5 backpacker centres can accommodate 250 visitors at one time. Right now it's peak season and facilities like this one at Stockton are enjoying the increasing popularity. But the Backpacker Operators Association says Newcastle needs to promote its proximity to Sydney, as backpacker tourism is a lucrative market.
And in actual fact, they are the largest spending category of inbound tourists to Australia, which is not to say they spend the most per day, but because of the working holiday program, a lot of them spend a lot of days here.
Backpackers are also the most likely to visit regional areas, but the tourists admit getting around can be difficult.
Everything's really far away.
Lyndall Derrig, NBN News.
In 1998, New South Wales Premier Bob Carr pledged his support for the construction of a multi-purpose shipping terminal in Newcastle on what was soon to be the vacant BHP site.
But we would move heaven and earth to see a major port facility of this kind established here in Newcastle.
6 years on and heaven and earth are standing still for Newcastle, and the state government has approved a report which will see the expansion of port botany long before Newcastle's ship comes in.
I mean, we were under the assumption that by 2020 that Newcastle container terminal will be handling 1 million containers per year. To say that we're not even going to start until 2020 is a disgrace, and it is a surprise. I feel that we've been hoodwinked.
At the 2002 Hunter Job Summit, a blueprint was put together which indicates Newcastle's MPT should be operating by 2006, a facility which was hoped would attract further industry to the now vacant site.
Realistically, people were thinking 2010, but to push it out to 2020, we're asking the government to look at other employment generating opportunities for that site.
But the Newcastle Port Corporation is following the government's lead, excited about the project which it claims will be bigger and better than the previous promise, moving 1 million containers a year. It all depends though on funding a private sector partner to build it.
And Newcastle has been identified as having the land and the berth space to be the state's next major large container terminal.
In 16 years' time. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
Firstly, I'd like to thank, or I'd like to congratulate the other nominees.
In 1992, this group of women made history, appointed as Newcastle's first female priests. 12 years on and the push to have women ordained continues, this time as bishops.
It was 1978 when the church really started to have women's issues on their agenda. So for the last 25 years, women have filled every role in the church except for the role of bishop in Australia.
Parishes from the Central Coast and Manning regions were today among those to call on the Anglican Church's National Parliament to adopt the proposition as a matter of urgency.
25% of our pool of priests now are women, exceptionally qualified and gifted. I think that God has always invited women into God's purposes and plans.
And given today's overwhelming response, it's expected the issue of women bishops will be the topic of conversation come October when the Anglican Church debates the matter at a national level. Adam McKilrick, NBN News.
In the latest attack at the Windale Centre, doors and windows were smashed and PlayStations stolen, leaving staff like Steve Plunkett to pick up the pieces.
Oh, I just think, oh no, not again. I just think, what are they taking this time, you know, because we do all this for the kids, and it's just really disheartening to come here and find that all the stuff's been taken that you've just replaced.
Fridges were busted open and vending machines smashed, leaving the club to pay thousands for repairs that fall underneath their insurance excess. Over the past 2 years, the repair bill has reached almost $100,000. A van was driven through the doors during a robbery just last month.
If it gets that bad that we just run out, we have to close the doors. I hope that never happens.
The PCYC runs programs to straighten out young offenders, and staff believe they've been robbed by some of the people they're trying to help.
I reckon it's kids that actually use the place, or maybe kids that we've kicked out of here for being mucking up. You know, sometimes we give kids fight here and do things, and we say, well, have a month off. Maybe they've come back and done the wrong thing. We don't know.
Paul Lobb, NBN News. The protesters, calling themselves Friends of Honeysuckle, were all pumped up this morning, releasing a large balloon designed to show the height of the Lee Wharf development proposed for the harbourfront site.
I don't think anybody in Newcastle wants another Beckton hotel, let alone twice the size, and that's what we're going to see. And the balloon will show people just how high and overdeveloped our waterfront is going to be if this development is approved by the Minister for Planning.
The plan involves 5 buildings, 2 on the waterfront and 3 set back, with 75 serviced apartments, 142 home units, as well as commercial space. One of the men behind the plan, Keith Stronach, says it won't be a concrete jungle because it fits Council's development control plan.
The DA was in last May. The full briefing was done to Council and councillors in June, and the DCP, the current DCP 40 amended, was approved on the 22nd of July last year by Council. So we've complied with that. What more can you do?
There'll be a public briefing on the plan in the former railway sheds tonight at 6:30.
The state government is the concerned authority, but Newcastle Council can let the Minister know just how the people of Newcastle feel. There's been lack of community consultation, lack of transparency, and it's overdevelopment of our unique waterfront land.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Although the visitors were first to score, it was Geordie Cullen who stole the show just minutes in. There was no questioning Matt Shanahan's efforts. But the Giants certainly had no trouble keeping up. The Hunter captain felt right at home guiding the Pirates around, finishing off with yet another 3. But Giants by name and nature, the hosts were simply overpowered and outclassed. Things off the court didn't go to plan for the Pirates, and it was much the same on deck, the Giants milking every play, but at times they didn't need to. Travis Lindstrom did his bit, as did Kevin Brooks, hitting back-to-back 3-pointers, giving the Pirates every chance. Despite the charge and a game-high 25-point haul by captain Matt Shanahan, the Pirates are still searching for their 3rd NBL win. Adam McIlrick, NBN News. Of the 155 entries at the championship, Davies is the only female, and didn't the crowd know it? With her every move under scrutiny, she's without question the topic of conversation.
I'm quite happy sitting here giving answers to questions and stuff. It doesn't worry me. I don't say I like it, and I certainly don't dislike it. So it's part and parcel of it if you're interesting. So it's nice to be interesting every so often.
Both on the course and off, Laura Davies admits she's already feeling the heat.
I didn't sleep a lot last night, to be honest, so it was... the trouble is, for these guys, this is just an ordinary event for them and they're just trying to win it, and I'm out there, under all sorts of pressure. So.
Not so Nick Flanagan. The former US amateur champ and Belmont product shrugged off those bogeys to finish with a credible 14 points and goes into day 2 with renewed confidence.
After the way I've been playing at the moment, I think that I can finish easily in the top 10 if I keep going the way I am, and I'm swinging it well, and as long as the putts keep dropping, I think I should be in there with a bit of a shot.
Playing in just his 4th professional tournament, Flanagan holds a 4-point lead over local rival Nathan Green, who admits trying to catch competition heavyweight Nick O'Hearn will be one mighty task.
He's pretty steady, so you're picking he's not the sort of bloke who'll come back to the field, so going to need hopefully 3 more good rounds and hopefully catch Nick Flanagan as well, who's posted a good score.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
An accomplished pianist, Evelyn Howe has had a lifetime of performances. But tomorrow she'll star in her own fairy tale wedding. The 95-year-old spent today preparing her dress before she walks down the aisle with 81-year-old Bruce Smith. The pair met 18 months ago at a Wallsend retirement village and quickly fell in love.
He asked me if I would marry him, and I said yes, and I gave him a big kiss.
It's the second marriage for both, who have already clocked up 110 years of matrimony between them. But it's the retirement village's first wedding, and all the residents are along for the ride. The couple will honeymoon in the Blue Mountains.
I told her, of course, that I had 3 sisters up there, you see, and she wanted to meet them. Not realising, not having been there before, that they were those 3 stony old girls that are up there.
All that's left now is to make it to the church on time. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
After winning the 100-metre final in 10.65 seconds, the rising star of the track continued to show why he's a real Olympic chance this year. Racing home in the lane, second from the right of screen, Josh Ross beat state champion Adam Miller for the win. The time of 20.87 seconds is still outside the Olympic A qualifier, but he's right on track for big things at the Nationals later this month. Long-serving star of the Speedway track, Chris Watson, will draw his stellar 34-year-long career to a close tomorrow at Muswellbrook. The Cessnock Bank Speedster boasts an incredible winning record, with some 41 Australian titles to his credit and another 76 at state level. Consistency was one of the keys to his success, but it wasn't without a range of thrills and spills such as this fall back in 1993. He'll be a star attraction at the Muswellbrook Long Track Spectacular tomorrow, which will feature a range of speedway action at the showground.
Last year, former lecturer Ian Ferns accused Newcastle University of a cover-up after 15 students from its graduate school in Malaysia were passed, despite earlier being failed for plagiarism.
You know, the 70% of students in that class who didn't cheat, who know damn well it's inappropriate to pass other people's work off as your own, have been punished by comparison with the 30% or so that did cheat.
Now, an independent report commissioned by the university has been made public. It found that plagiarism issues were generally handled poorly in the institution, but that's about as far as the report goes.
And although all of those involved in handling plagiarism cases act with the best of intentions, the result was probably unsatisfactory. So it was an unsatisfactory outcome.
We are accountable, we're accepting the criticism, and we're putting in place procedures to make sure it doesn't happen again.
We've got 120 pages from the ethics boffins, another report from the university, but they still won't tell us what happened to the individual students who sparked the whole plagiarism debate. Did they pass or fail?
I'd prefer not to discuss individual details, but really deal with the future of the university's response.
So the veil of secrecy continues.
It was a jet ski stunt that went horribly wrong.
He just went up in the air and went vertically and then just come down and landed on his back. He put his hand up and just yelled.
The injured man's friend, an off-duty ambulance officer and riding another jet ski nearby, called for help just before midday. A small army of lifesavers competing at a nearby carnival then assisted paramedics with the man's treatment offshore. Handed over just 4 days ago, this spinal board proved all the difference. Put to use for the first time today, designed for this type of rescue.
With the spinal board we had, it's a good, you can sink it into the water, so you don't have to try and move him as much.
The man was then stabilised on shore and appeared to be in high spirits before being transported by the Westpac Rescue helicopter to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital.
We had a little joke just before he come, so he wasn't sort of scared or nothing. It was a bit shivery and cold.
A condition that could have been much worse.
We'd particularly like to thank the surf lifesavers that happened along with their rubber ducky. We were able to use those to effect the rescue of the injured person from the water.
claim the pursuit lasted just 2 minutes, but it came to a sudden halt in the Newcastle suburb of Mayfield. It began when a highway patrol car pursued this Toyota Camry, which was stolen last night. During the chase, the driver of the Camry refused to slow down in the wet conditions, instead speeding to a reported 120 kilometres an hour. It's believed the Camry was driven through a red light and collided with an oncoming ute. Its 2 male occupants tried to make a run for it, but the driver was quickly arrested at the scene and treated by ambulance officers. Police searched the suburb for the passenger, who was caught half an hour later.
We were told a short time ago that a suspect was arrested in Mayfield.
He was taken under police guard to the John Hunter Hospital suffering from minor injuries. Police won't reveal how fast the highway patrol car was going.
The crash scene from Newcastle investigating the matter, along with there'll be an independent inquiry from the Waratah Police.
Lyndall Derrig, NBN News.
Newcastle and Perth share a healthy rivalry, but the Glory wouldn't have recognised many of the youth-laden United side. Robbie Middleby has been a rare sight all season, but you got an idea what he's capable of when fit, beating everyone but the bar. It took the old firm for Perth to get the ball rolling after Bobby Despotovsky powered his way into the box. Things ended with Damien Morey getting ahead on things to knock it past Tom Willis. A brave save only a minute later from Willis stopped the Glory from doubling its lead. Mitchell Johnson had a strong night for Newcastle, but they had few second-half chances. Perth making sure of it 5 minutes from time with a pinpoint first touch from substitute Adrian Casillas.
We huffed and puffed tonight and probably made it difficult for them, but I think probably Mish hit the nail on the head when he said it was comfortable without being anything spectacular.
I think there's going to be teams that finish in the top 6 that are not as good as the slot.
With a population of just 900, Merriwa, like other small country towns, is struggling to provide job opportunities for its young people. But it's the youth who are fighting to change that.
I think it's very important that the young people of Merriwa realise that there's always going to be something for them to come back to so they can bring their skills back in the future.
Merriwa's Mad Youth, which stands for Youth Making a Difference, held a National Redhead Day on the weekend and raised more than $9,000. The money will be used to eventually establish a business to provide jobs for young people.
Just so people can buy everything they need in Merriwa and they don't have to travel to other places and keep their money in the town to support the youth and to support the community.
The ambitious plan involves selling goods which currently can't be bought in the town.
We have support from everyone, from the Shire, from members of the community. Everyone thinks it's a great idea. The youth are really enthused and I'm sure they will support us all the way.
But the young people of Merriwa have been forced to step up their campaign. Like other communities across the Hunter, they face an uncertain future because of amalgamation.
The young people really don't want to see the council go. They can see the effect that it's going to have on them if the council goes.
Lyndall Derrig, NBN News. Debate is building over the proposed Lee Wharf development. Those opposed have launched an attack over the airways. The Friends of Honeysuckle, backed by several councillors, have been pushing for a state government inquiry. They're concerned about its height at 9 stories.
Basically the size, the bulk and the height of it are too great. I think what we need in the Honeysuckle area and the Lee Wharf area is more open public space and a smaller scale type of development.
Last night, the opponents got their way, councillors voting 9-4 in favour of an inquiry. The Lord Mayor says Lee Wharf is in accordance with Council's guidelines. He's opposed to the inquiry, believing it's a waste of time and simply a blocking exercise by some councillors.
The information is all at hand and you don't need to go to a commission of inquiry. It's not an appropriate structure or process to evaluate this particular application.
If the state government approves the inquiry, it will only be the third to ever be carried out in Newcastle. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
The 3rd of April last year is a date few parents and students of Tomaree High are likely to forget anytime soon. Police and emergency services rushed to the school after reports 2 students had been shot with a crossbow bolt before classes. Today in the Supreme Court, Justice Graham Barr handed down his verdict. The accused, a 17-year-old former student who can't be named, was found not guilty on the most serious charge of attempted murder, although he had already pleaded guilty to malicious wounding with intent after telling the court during the trial that he'd planned on injuring his ex-girlfriend. His former girlfriend was shot through the chest with a crossbow bolt, which then hit another student, pinning her legs together. While Justice Barr said the accused harboured a resentment for his ex-girlfriend over their breakup and informed friends that he was going to get her, he did not try to kill her. The youth also faced the charge of throwing an explosive substance with intent to do grievous bodily harm, but Justice Barr accepted the defendant's excuse that he was only trying to disperse the crowd and not further injure his first victim. Justice Barr, though, found the youth guilty of maliciously wounding with intent of the second victim, who was wounded in the legs, and guilty of firing a prohibited weapon without a licence. Both Crown Prosecutor Laurie Gray and Defence Barrister Peter Zara refrained from commenting after the verdict. While the 2 victims and their families also declined to comment on camera, a police investigator said they were disappointed with the findings. The matter was adjourned to the 16th of April. Cullen Robinson, NBN News.
A large number of kids gave the small contingent of Knights players a very warm welcome today on the far north coast. Andrew Johns, Matt Gidley, Tamana Tahu and the injured Matt Parsons were signing everything and anything made to feel like royalty.
Yeah, it's flattering and it's good to see the kids get a kick out of seeing you, and they probably don't get a chance to see the players they see on television too much, so it's a good initiative.
Attempting to raise the profile of the code in regional areas, for some it doubles as preparation for a series of upcoming trials. But Johns won't play in the first at Port Stephens, still working on that troublesome neck injury.
It's still a little bit sore, so just waiting to get back out in the field and try to get that confidence back. We've got a trial in 3 weeks, so I'll probably know more after then.
They say you can take the boy out of the country, but not the country out of the boy. And for Jason Moody, that could well be the case. Having played with Western Suburbs in the local league before NRL stints with the Knights and Parramatta, the winger who turns 30 this May has met with a number of clubs. Western Suburbs management has confirmed this afternoon it's put an offer to Moody, but it's believed he's considering several options. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
She's proven she's got the goods, but Sydney's Lane Beachley still hasn't had her fill of surfing. With 6 world titles under her belt, the Northern Beaches Golden Girl has accepted a challenge to face the swell alongside men at next month's Energy Australian Open at Newcastle Beach.
To go out and continue challenging myself and also coming up against the best guy surfers in the world is I think, another step in the ladder to improvement.
The 31-year-old will face current title holder Manly's Dayan Neve in the 4-star World Qualifying Series event.
Well, it's going to make a lot of guys nervous, and that could be their downfall. But, the guys are going to be going 110%, but so is she. So, as I said, it's going to be interesting to watch.
I like to aspire to surf like a guy and learn some lessons from how they approach a wave, because they do approach it a little differently than we do.
The announcement, which was made today in Sydney, is a promoter's dream and a major draw card for the event.
It's another world first. That's what we always strive to do. There's always something different comes out of Energy Australia Surf Fest each year.
And while Laura Davies wasn't able to match the men in the ANZ Golf Championships last week, a man whose name has become synonymous with Australian surfing, Mark Richards, expects a different result.
And I think if the surf's big, she's got a chance of doing well, because Lane has ridden some massive waves in Hawaii and she's absolutely fearless in big wave conditions.
Colleen West, NBN News.
While tourism in the Hunter goes from strength to strength, there's a thirst for businesses to employ well-trained people in tourism and hospitality roles. That's where TAFE and programs like the one being celebrated today at Crown Plaza in Newcastle come in. 2 students were awarded scholarships by the hotel to help in their studies in hospitality management.
To have that pipeline, you need to be able to have an education system that allows you to get quality employees very early on in their employment cycle.
It's really important that they can see the relation between the learning that they get at TAFE and then also applying it in the workplace.
TAFE has also fostered partnerships with other companies that will give its top students the chance to follow in the footsteps of Brett Graham, 2002 UK Young Chef of the Year, and make their mark overseas. 4th-year apprentice chef Eliza Taylor won that chance this year and will now gain valuable experience working in London restaurants. Cullen Robinson, NBN News.